What's up, guys? My name is Paige, and this is my first YouTube video. But to be fair, I've been trying to put out YouTube content for at least 2 years now. I would record, they would be garbage, and I would just say, you know what? I would try to, I was learning how to use OBS and Premiere Pro, and I was like, you know what? All this is garbage. It's hogwash. Nobody's going to watch this garbage. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself now. If you don't want to hear what I'm about to say, you can just fast forward to the time on the video. That's fine. I totally get it if you don't want to hear anything about me and you're just here for the video. I'm a Christian first, a wife second, and a mama third, but golly. I'm glad that girl is grown, though. I'm enjoying my freedom. I'll tell you right now, I'm enjoying my freedom. I'm a proud Southerner. I love my heritage. I love my country. I'm a proud patriot. And as you can see, I have pretty terrible skin and my hair is always a mess, but that's okay. My husband still loves me. And as you'll be able to hear in my voice, sometimes I have a lisp due to my crooked ass teeth. So there's not really much I can do about that except get my teeth fixed whenever one of these days I've got the money to do so. I'm really just a chubby Tennessee girl, Southern girl who calls it like it is, who calls it like I see it. That's really it. And I'm actually more based. I'm probably a little too based for some of y'all. So I really hope I don't start off on the wrong foot and get kicked off this platform. So we'll see about that. Now, let's get into the video. Now, you got all these people that are whining and crying and boo-hooing about the fact they're getting fired from the government. Look, we've tried to tell y'all this was coming. You've been knowing for a few months that this was coming, right? So I can't feel too bad for them because we all know, all of us are well aware of the fact that there's too many positions in government, right, that are kind of like filler jobs. They just sit there and they don't do much. I had a friend of mine who used to work in government. And there's plenty of jobs. And Asmund Gold will, he shared multiple stories about his time working. I guess he worked for the IRS, maybe. But, working for the feds, there's a lot of jobs where they don't do very much. They don't do hardly nothing. I guess they're coming out and they're covering their faces because they're crying.
These are the federal workers who just found out they lost their jobs this morning. The State Department is laying off more than 1,300 employees this Friday. And behind me, you've got a rally going on as these workers walk out with clocks in their hands and crowds are cheering and supporting them.
Yeah, so my entire team was affected by this. This is a sad day for democracy. It's a sad day for human rights.
These cuts are part of a major reorganization plan by the Trump administration. The administration says it's about streamlining and making the department more efficient. But critics argue that this will seriously weaken U.S. diplomacy at a time when global tensions are rising.
Just think it's a sad time for...
Look, these people can whine and cry all they want to, but here's the deal. Let me just pull these stats up for y'all, okay? That way everybody's on board and everybody understands exactly what is going on here. Over 1,300 people were fired from the State Department, right? The Education Department laid off 1,400. HHS started layoff of thousands, okay? Now, let's scroll down here and let's look at the numbers. How many people were employed by the State Department? This is over 80,000 employees. That's a drop in the bucket. That's not even, 3%. That's not a lot of people to fire. 80,214 total employees, over 14,000 for foreign service, 12,000, over 12,000 for civil. There's a gnat in my room and it's driving me nuts. Department of Education, roughly 4,200 employees. They've talked about completely getting rid of the Department of Education, right? I know that Linda McMahon is the driving force behind trying to, I guess, to completely get rid of it. I mean, I don't know what their exact plan is. I need to go back and watch that video that Doge put out. The Department of Health and Human Services, 65,000 employees. 65,000. So we've got 4,200, and then 65,000. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of people. I mean, that's not a lot of people that they're laying off and that they're firing. So I don't know why everybody is freaking out and getting so upset over it, because now getting completely rid of the Department of Education and leaving it to the states to do it, to me, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I think that's what they need to do. I think that state education needs to be completely revamped. It needs to be completely overhauled and redone. Like, I remember when I was in school, we had the TCAP test, right? And you've got the ACTs and all that in high school, but the TCAP test was every single year, and everybody despised it. Everybody hated it because of just how long, because it took us, seems like it took us 2 days. It might have taken us, I think it did. I think it took us 2 days to finish the test. And I remember whenever my daughter was in school, it took her 3, I think. So they had to kind of do it in sections. You know, they have to do it in sections, but they had to do it in segments. Look, as somebody who has a daughter who actually was born up with a learning disability, there are children, there's plenty of kids that are in desperate need of. Now, I know this has nothing to do with the subject of the video, but just hear me out. There's plenty of kids that need IEPs, that need, they need to be in special education. I'm sorry, but it's a massive growing number of children right now. Let's actually find that out. Let's see how many kids now are actually in special education now versus 20 years ago. Now, according to this, back in 2004, 2005, whenever that was the year my daughter was born, there was 5.9 million children that were in special education compared to today, which is over 7.5 million. So yeah, we have a huge problem. And I know that Asman put out a video about the fact that literacy is dead. Literacy in our country, there's 40%, an average of 40% of people that can't read anymore in our country because we're so focused on our phones and, images and video, and having our phones read to us instead of actually reading ourselves or actually sitting down with a book. There's too many of them that are going straight video instead of making these kids read. And this is no joke, I got a story to tell you. As far as the State Department stuff and as far as the government layoffs and the firings, I really couldn't care. I hate that people are losing their jobs. I don't like that. That's never good, right? They'll be fine. They'll be fine. A lot of them got severance. I think a lot of them took severance packages. Some of them didn't. Some of them did. They'll be completely fine. I'm sure they'll be fine. Okay, something I wanted to add briefly. I wanted to add an update to this story because this video I literally made going on 2 months ago because I haven't been able to launch my channel because I have been working and gotten into a wreck. All kinds of stuff has happened, y'all. Trump has fired the CDC director. So in summary, White House says Susan, how do you say her name? Monterez, not aligned with Trump's agenda. 3 departing CDC officials cheered as they leave Atlanta campus. Kennedy says maybe some people should not be working at CDC anymore. White House appoints HHS top deputy as acting leader of CDC. If this director, and we'll have to go back and look, if this director was the same director that was in charge during the beer bug, I have no problem with it. I have zero issues with this. Everybody wants to say, oh, well, he's overstepping. Is this a power grab or a house cleaning? Which is it? In my opinion, not a power grab. I think like, oh, well, they're supposed to be a separate agency. They're not supposed to be involved in government. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that the government they still have to follow government regulations, right? So people can cry and whine about the fact that this CDC director has been fired, but they still have to follow the law. They still have to go abide by the regulations that the government has put on them. Y'all, I really need a ground news subscription. So in terms of government firings that's going on right now, okay, the Federal Reserve is also experiencing some cuts right now. So ChatGPT told me that, our president has pushed aggressively to fire officials, even those who were aligned with or appointed by his administration to consolidate control across government. Recently dismissed officials include Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. She's reportedly seeking a court order to block her firing. The CDC director and the Surface Transportation Board member Robert Primus. A CDC in turmoil, the firing of CDC Director Susan Monterez due to her resistance to unscientific directives triggered a cascade of top-level resignations. Health Secretary RFK Jr. has imposed sweeping changes, including dismantling the CDC's vaccine advisory panel. Congratulations. That makes me happy. Critics warn these actions politicize public health and jeopardize scientific integrity. I don't think so. I think Robert Kennedy, I think Bobby is on the right track when it comes to the dangers of the jabs. I'm sorry, but research it yourself. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about if you go and look and just go listen to some of his talks. He's talked about this for years. Transportation Board shakeup, and then the FEMA layoffs over cyber failures. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem dismissed around 24 FEMA staff, including the agency's CIO and CISO, following a cybersecurity breach. The lapse involved restoring threat actor access and neglecting basic security measures, prompting swift firings. Well, if you've got security issues and they're ignoring them, then they deserve to be fired, right? Military intelligence ousted. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth removed Lieutenant General Jeffrey Cruz, DIA director, for intelligence that downplayed the impact of U.S. airstrikes on Iran, contradicting POTUS's assertions. 2 other senior officials were also dismissed in what's viewed as politically motivated purging. That's according to AP News, of course. Stalled oversight institutions, the Department of Labor's NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, has become nearly non-functional after multiple firings, including the general counsel and chair. Output of decisions has plummeted. Similarly, mass firings of inspectors general in January have raised alarms about eroded oversight capabilities. Broader context, mass layoffs and structural cuts. We know that since January, over 290,000 federal workers have been affected by layoffs, buyouts, or reduction in force orders, which critics argue are aimed at undermining civil service protections. Agencies impacted, we already know, education, energy, veteran, VA, interior, EPA, HHS, including CDC, NOAA, and more. Let's see, legal pushback. Independent bodies like the Office of Special Counsel have challenged some firings as unlawful and sought reinstatement for affected employees. Mental health fallout. A survey of federal employees revealed widespread stress, anxiety, depression, and severe morale decline linked to the ongoing job instability. Many are considering leaving public service altogether. Look, I told you before. Government jobs, it depends on what position you're in. If you've got some menial, filler job that you pretty much just sit on your hands all day, then, people they're going to whine and cry about it. They're experiencing exactly what a lot of us have experienced in our life, and they'll be fine. I promise you. New rules threaten due process. A proposed policy could strip even more protections from current employees, allowing for terminations based on vague unsuitability claims, potentially birthing a partisan civil service. In summary, firings can span from civilian agencies, CDC, STB, FEMA, to intelligence and oversight bodies, often politically motivated. Mass layoffs continue to slash the federal workforce with widespread legal, operational, and human impacts. The ripple effect weakened institutional checks, lowered employee morale, and threats to service delivery and public trust. Now, our government is bloated, y'all. It's bloated. You guys know this. We all know this. They've got to make cuts somewhere, and in my opinion, this is perfectly fine. If we start seeing the degradation of our local governments, however, due to any of these cuts, then I might have a different opinion. So that's just my take on it.
My husband went on now the only reason why he did this was for research purposes, because we're not into the whole ghost hunting scene, right? Like we're not into that because we think it's like you're calling upon the dead, and it's too like dancing on the line of trying to summon demons and all this stuff. So we don't fool with that stuff. But he was doing this for research purposes, and he went on a ghost hunt
with this crew. Now, this was a couple months ago. This was about three or 4 months ago. And the guy that he went on the ghost hunt with, he had 2 teenage sons. And they were both, he said they were high school age, you know, probably between 15 and 16 years old. Okay. And he said the entire time that they were there with him through this entire thing, they were taking notes, right, on what was going on. If there was any activity or whatever, but they were in charge of taking notes. And he said that they looked to him and asked him probably 200 times that night how to spell the most innocuous words. How do you spell, what did they say? How do you spell tunnel? How do you spell foreseeable? How do you spell, like they were asking him to spell words for them that they should have learned 10 years ago. It was crazy. It was insane. So yeah, I think we have a big problem with literacy in our kids. They're stupid. They're stupid. And I'm not talking about from learning disabilities. I'm talking about from the fact that they stay on social media and they stay on YouTube and they stay on these platforms, or these like TikTok, you know, they stay on these social media platforms, and it has literally melted their brains. And parents, forget it. Forget it. Parents are not doing anything about it. They're allowing it to happen. So the degradation of our society is starting in the house, y'all. I think we can all agree with that, right? It's starting in the home. So if the parents are not going to do their jobs, you cannot expect the teachers to do their jobs either. You have to control your kids, and you have to not just with their attitude, but with what they're getting themselves into, what they're being influenced by. So anyway, okay, this video is probably too long. I'm sure it's over 10 minutes, so I'll see you in the next one.